Welcome to Hacksonville.
Welcome to Hacksonville, a Jacksonville, Florida cybersecurity podcast for small business owners and anyone who wants to learn more about the cyber domain in under 15 minutes. As we do cover some heavy stories related to cyber attacks and threats on this podcast, listener discretion is advised. Penetration testing has become such a cybersecurity buzzword. It's up there with hackers, scams, and phishing. So you know what that means. Of course, we're going to talk about it on today's episode, pen testing, also known as penetration testing. In a nutshell, a penetration test is when a penetration tester is hired to simulate attacks on a network or access on a network and identify weaknesses that are reported to that network owner. Think of it like a home inspection. The inspector looks for everything that's wrong with your home and provides you a report of the weaknesses in infrastructure, as well as steps and recommendations on what to prioritize fixing. Sometimes they'll even give you a ballpark price on how much it'll cost to remedy certain vulnerabilities, and sometimes provide discounts on these fixes thanks to doing a pen test. I'm Jenny with CMIT Solutions of Southwest Jax, and today we'll be discussing in a little bit more detail about what to expect from and during a penetration test, as well as things to help you decide whether a penetration test is right for you. First off, as of 2025, the cost of a penetration test starts at around $10,000. We're not going to go into how that changes based on the number of assets, employees, or servers, or your company's owns or use. Let me back up a little bit. I need to explain technical assets more. What are technical assets? Computers and computer accessories are the obvious one, I think. That means speakers, keyboard, mouse, monitors, chargers, power cables. Those stand as liabilities in your technical asset inventory. And most of these devices are pretty user-friendly. It's easy to purchase on your own. A little more technical, we've got printers, phones, security cameras, webcams, microphones, or headsets. They get a little more complicated because these devices can also connect wirelessly through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. They sometimes can store data, so we can go into external hard drives and flash drives. And we're going more on the network side of things, so interconnectedness. We have that first computer that you could have all those devices just for one computer, but then to start connecting to other things, that's when you start expanding to printers and cameras and phones. And to think that we just grew from talking about a single house now to a tiny neighborhood, maybe a cul-de-sac. And your purchases at this point of these items will impact other parts of your neighborhood, your neighbors. So these become more liabilities in your now increasing technical asset inventory. We're going to go crazy now and talk about network devices. So routers, modems, Wi-Fi, and cable, oh my. Now you've got a subscription to an internet service provider or ISP, and something you can't imagine running your business without. Even if you run your business off only your cell phone's data services, you've still got a subscription to an ISP. And the ultimate residence of your network kingdom is data.
This episode is brought to you by CMIT Solutions of Southwest Jax, a local IT managed services provider for small to mid-sized businesses in and around Southwest Jax.
Your data, while it mostly lives in servers throughout your network kingdom, they travel your network and even to other neighboring networks or far-reaching networks. This is kind of the cutest description I think I've ever heard of a network. I wish it was taught to me this way. Moving on, I think an enemy spy is the best way to describe what happens during a penetration test. We'll talk a little bit about a bare minimum enemy spy dressed in commoner's clothing. He's going to do a little bit of research on your network kingdom before making a few attempts to infiltrate. His goal is to copy, steal, or change your data. Why? I think you know better than anyone how valuable your data is. Credit card data, personally identifiable information data, healthcare data, etc. He wants to steal it and sell it to your enemies. And boy, are there a lot of enemies out there. We're not even sure what enemy kingdom we're dealing with. But I can tell I'm starting to obsess a little bit too much about the enemy right now. And that's all covered in episode 4 of this podcast, so I'll move on. Our enemy spy, He's observed that there are only 2 openings in this protective wall surrounding your castle. We can call that the gate. These walls are just basic protections that you've put in place by the makers of your technical assets. And while, like passwords, for example, the ability to add passwords, the ability to put on a lock screen. So while the enemy spy could choose to dig his way through those walls and wait for time to make the walls weaken naturally over about 10 years, that'd take too long. He'll be too old and poor and weak if he waited until then for every single heist. Not very lucrative at all for a spy. So he's going to look for natural openings like the way in and out from your residence. So he'll look for natural openings like the way in and out for your data. Now there are guards at these openings typically guarding the gate. They demand a password. If the residents just quietly whisper the password to the guards, there's no chance of this enemy spy hearing the way in. Remember how the old colonial pipeline was taken out by an old unsecured password? That's pretty much all it could take. But good for you, let's say your data just whispers quietly the password, and now the enemy spy has to look for a different way to get in. He may try to study your data and impersonate your data. He notices that some of your data wear specific identifiers on their clothing or maybe a special uniform that helps identify them. And some of them have a recognized maybe username that a guard automatically allows in, like someone using a password that is just recognized. And then the enemy spy is going to try using all of these methods to get past those guards. Oh, by the way, this enemy spy can monitor and try all these methods repeatedly hundreds of thousands of times over the course of a couple minutes. Penetration tests usually last between 1 to 2 weeks of these attempts. I almost forgot we were talking about penetration testing. I'm actually really rooting for this kingdom to stay safe. The thing that makes this enemy spy actually a good guy is he was an expert spy hired by the king of their kingdom. That's you, to test the defenses of the kingdom. Once he finds weaknesses in the kingdom's defenses, he's going to provide an in-depth report on his findings and what areas were the weakest. Maybe there's a small opening no one even knew was there, but the enemy spy found it because he's obsessed with finding this opening. Maybe he found out the guards were inept at handling a huge influx of traffic at one time, so he specifically staged a huge wave of traffic, maybe at the time of holidays or something, and it lasted for a week and prevented the kingdom from receiving essential supplies the entire time. It's kind of also known as a denial of service attack. That's a real thing. So since this enemy spy is a real expert, he's incredibly helpful, but he can come at a rather high cost for a quick service, 1 to 2 weeks. Does everyone need one? At CMIT Solutions of Southwest Jacks, we believe so, but you may not need all of the spy's services. You may not run an entire kingdom, but maybe only a small village, maybe just a small neighborhood, maybe just your own house. If you're interested in penetration testing, reach out to your local IT expert and tell them about the technical assets in your domain. They should help you build out a penetration test that could be as simple as running an automated program that would cost much less, like maybe $3,500 per year. And if you need a penetration test for compliance reasons, be sure to budget the costs of achieving compliance along with how regular and in-depth of a pen test you will need. That was hands down our most metaphorical episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely did. While I maintain that penetration testing can feel like a bit of a cybersecurity buzzword, it is more and more relevant to everyone. And it's a part of everyone's responsibility to be in the know about where their weaknesses in their defenses against cyber attacks are. Don't try and DIY your own home inspection. Rely on your local experts and find your cybersecurity partner as soon as possible. A bit late to say it, but welcome to Season 2 of Welcome to Hacksonville. Stay updated with us on our social media. Just look for CMIT Solutions of SW Jacks on your favorite social media platforms.